Today we will take a walk through space and time as we visit historical sites in Galway and consider the civic and political issues that arose for prominent people who faced a tragic set of events. At the end of our tour, we should be able to identify when and where the events took place, identify who was involved and what type of people they were, and discuss whether justice and civic duty or family and honour are more important in life. Let us begin our tour and our story. The Warden of Galway. A few years before the Battle of Knockdoe, an extraordinary instance of civic justice occurred in this town. James Lynch, an opulent merchant, was mayor of Galway in 1493. He had made several voyages to Spain, as a considerable intercourse was then kept up between that country and the western coast of Ireland. When returning from his last visit, he brought with him the son of a respectable merchant named Gomez, whose hospitality he had largely experienced, and who was now received by his family with all the warmth of affection which from the earliest period has characterized the natives of Ireland. Young Gomez soon became the intimate associate of Walter Lynch, the only son of the mayor, a youth in his 21st year, who possessed qualities of mind and body which rendered him an object of general admiration. But in these was unhappily united a disposition to libertinism, which was a source of the greatest affliction to his father. The worthy magistrate, however, was now led to entertain hopes of a favourable change in his son's character, as he was engaged in paying honourable addresses to a beautiful young lady of good family and fortune. Preparatory to the nuptials, the mayor gave a splendid entertainment, at which young Lynch fancied his intended bride viewed his Spanish friend with too much regard. On the following night, while Walter Lynch slowly passed the residence of his beloved, he observed young Gomez to leave the house, as he had been invited by her father to spend that evening with him. All his suspicions now received the most dreadful confirmation, and in maddened fury he rushed on his unsuspecting friend, who, alarmed by a voice which the frantic rage of his pursuer prevented him from recognizing, fled towards a solitary quarter of the town near the shore. Here we stop at the Spanish Arch. Lynch maintained the fell pursuit till his victim had nearly reached the water's edge, when he overtook him, darted a poniard into his heart, and plunged his body bleeding into the sea, which, during the night, threw it back again upon the shore, where it was found and recognized on the following morning. The wretched murderer sought to hide himself in the recesses of an adjoining wood, where he passed the night a prey to all those conflicting feelings which the loss of that happiness he had so ardently expected, and a sense of guilt of the deepest dye, could inflict. He at length found some degree of consolation in the firm resolution of surrendering himself to the law, as the only means now left to him of expiating the dreadful crime which he had committed against society. With this determination, he bent his steps towards the town at the earliest dawn of the following morning. But he had scarcely reached its precincts when he met a crowd approaching, amongst whom, with shame and terror, he observed his father on horseback, attended by several officers of justice. At present, the venerable magistrate had no suspicion that his only son was the assassin of his friend and guest, but when young Lynch proclaimed himself the murderer, a conflict of feeling seized the wretched father beyond the power of language to describe. To him, as chief magistrate of the town, was entrusted the power of life and death. For a moment the strong affection of a parent pleaded in his breast in behalf of his wretched son. But this quickly gave place to a sense of duty as an impartial dispenser of the laws. The latter feeling at length predominated, and he ordered the guard to secure their prisoner. We'll start walking back up towards Lynch's castle on Shop Street now. In a few days, the trial of Walter Lynch took place, and in a provincial town of Ireland containing at that period not more than 3,000 inhabitants, a father was beheld sitting in judgment on his only son, and condemning that son to die as a sacrifice to public justice. His was a virtue too refined for vulgar minds. The populace loudly demanded the prisoner's release, and were only prevented by the guards from demolishing the prison and the mayor's house which adjoined it. And their fury was increased on learning that the unhappy prisoner had now become anxious for his life. To these ebullitions of popular rage were added the intercessions of persons of the first rank and influence in Galway, and the entreaties of his dearest relatives and friends. But while Lynch evinced all the feeling of a father and a man placed in singularly distressing circumstances, he undauntedly declared that the law should take its course. The next day had scarcely broken when the signal of preparation was heard among the guards without. The father rose and assisted the executioner to remove the fetters which bound his unfortunate son. Then, unlocking the door, he placed him between the priest and himself, leaning upon an arm of each. In this manner they ascended a flight of steps lined with soldiers, and were passing on to gain the street, when a new trial assailed the magistrate, for which he appears not to have been unprepared. His wretched wife, whose name was Blake, failing in her personal exertions to save the life of her son, had gone in distraction to the heads of her own family, and prevailed on them, for the honour of their house, to rescue him from ignominy. They flew to arms, and a prodigious concourse soon assembled to support them, whose outcries for mercy to the culprit would have shaken any nerves less firm than those of the Mayor of Galway. He exhorted them to yield submission to the laws of their country, but finding all his efforts fruitless to accomplish the ends of justice at the accustomed place and by the usual hands, he, by a desperate victory over parental feeling, resolved himself to perform the sacrifice which he had vowed to pay on its altar. And here we stop at Lynch's Window, Market Street. Still retaining a hold of his unfortunate son, he mounted with him by a winding stair within the building that led to an arched window overlooking the street, which he saw filled with the populace. Here he secured the end of the rope, which had been previously fixed round the neck of his son, to an iron staple, which projected from the wall, and after taking from him a last embrace, he launched him into eternity. The intrepid magistrate expected instant death from the fury of the populace, but the people seemed so much overawed or confounded by the magnanimous act that they retired slowly and peaceably to their several dwellings. The unhappy father of Walter Lynch is said to have secluded himself during the remainder of his life from all society, except that of his mourning family. His house still exists in Lombard Street, Galway, which is yet known by the name of Dead Man's Lane, and over the front doorway are to be seen a skull and crossbones executed in black marble, with the motto, "Remember death, vanity of vanity, and all is but vanity." Now, to finish, we have 4 questions. 1. When did the events in this story take place? Where did they take place? 2. Look at the coats of arms below. Circle the crests of both powerful Galway families mentioned in the story. 3. Discuss in pairs. Was James Lynch right to hang his son? Should civic duty be put before family allegiance? Give reasons for your answers. And 4. On our Galway walk, draw a sketch like the one below of Lynch's Window as it is today. Thank you.